Jumbo, hello. Thank you for coming back this week for chapters 8 and 9 of Jumbo Mama. Welcome to Mama Sarah's Storytime. As you can see, we had to change venues because my current set is so filled with Rafiki that, I should say Rafikis for our sake, many friends, and that is a good thing. So I decided to move the show over here to a different room filled with wonderful things that would remind me of being a woman. Okay, this is chapter 8 and chapter 9 of Jumbo Mama. Carry On and Find Charity. They are two rather sensitive chapters about finding and losing friends. Okay? First of all, before we get started, don't forget to follow me on Jumbo Mama and Instagram and Facebook. At Jumbo Mama on those places. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget to comment and tell me what platform you're watching me on. And don't forget to go to Amazon.com for the books and blah, 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 right? I hate saying all that stuff, but I have to. All right, we are getting started. Mama Sarah says, forget about it. Chapter 8, Carry On. At the girls' school, I never could get used to the fact that the forms, the grade levels, were separated into forms A, B, and C. I came home from school that very first day, and I announced to my parents, the classes are strange. Every form has 3 rooms. There's only African students in the C form room. There's mostly Indian students in the B form room. And in Form A, my form, there's almost all white girls. Oh, and get this, only A formers can be prefix. They have all the power. They can beat the stink out of you and the teachers don't even care. My parents, realizing that things really hadn't changed that much since the Mau Mau Revolution, chose to pull us out of those horrid schools and educate us in a way they saw fit, bumping about East Africa in a Land Rover with scientists. Unfortunately, though, I had to return periodically to the school and be forced to face my nemesis, Phaedra. I think the team captain didn't care for me simply because I was a pretty decent hockey goalie. But during a hockey match, mid-game, I was celebrating a block a little too enthusiastically, I guess, when Phaedra, who was twice my size, on a signal from the captain, came running right at me and chopped her hockey stick smack across my kneecap. I remember searing pain and then nothing. Now, I understand. Phaedra was afraid of what I might do to her position with the class. You'll have to find the rest of that story in the book because I'm not going to give it all away to you, but there was a resolution. And an enemy does not deserve that much of your time, so forget about it and move on. I can do this, though. This is a random message to Phaedra. You could have just talked to me. Well, did you know that from you I learned the British Sign Language, along with the whole class? You gave us a secret communication gift that I still use today. You could have told me to bleep bleep in sign language, and I would have gotten the message. But instead, you played dirty. So, I'm giving away your gift to the rest of the world that people might understand you better. Now, tomorrow there will be a video with the British Sign Language alphabet that Phaedra taught us all, that I still use today and continued to teach to every elementary student I ever had over my 25-year career. So, I got her back. All right, let's move on and not dwell on things. Chapter 9, Find Charity. I was certain that I would not come out of the winning end of any encounter with Phaedra, so I found a way to have to spend my recesses in the classroom, where I knew she would not venture. I simply interrupted the headmistress loudly with laughter when she was making her morning announcements in the classroom. She looked at me with utter horror, as if someone may have hit me over the head. Miss McDonough didn't have to say another word. She knew I'd show up for detention. based on her expression alone. And I did, gladly. On that lucky day, I had worn the dress version of our school uniform, which was a light green cotton plaid dress. It had short sleeves, a collar, and a belt, which helped to contain the huge gathered skirt. My skirt was about to double as a tent because I, fortunately, had recently read The Tin Drum by Günter Grass. I was quietly reading at my desk when suddenly the most popular girl in the whole school dashed into the room and with a wild expression in her eyes whispered, "Hide me!" I just did the first thing that came to mind. I do believe this was the moment I knew I would make a great mother one day. I lifted my skirt, moved my legs aside, and said to her, "Get under here." She did, gladly. Only a moment later, Miss McDonough poked her head through the door like a secretary bird. "Sarah Mechy!" Oh, how she loved rolling my Scottish name off of her Scottish tongue. "Have you seen Charity Karaoke?" So that's her name, I thought. "Nope, not me," I answered. "Not I," corrected Miss McDonough. "Spend the next recess here, too." After we were sure she had gone, I lifted my skirt. Out popped my new Rafiki, Charity, both of us giggling like crazy. She thanked me formally. She took my hand in hers and she said, "I am your friend. Don't worry. No one will hurt you again." And she became my hero. She was true to her promise, and in fact, I never even spoke to another girl there. I still wanted to leave the school, especially when I learned that Charity was going to be graduating. For a time, I was the only American girl there, a tough position to be in. I'm just so grateful that my experience did not rob me of my opportunity to be Charity's Rafiki. I never physically saw her again, but she would remain in our lives for the next 10 years or so. After Adam and I moved to our new schools, Charity stayed in touch by telephone. She came to know my parents all by telephone, too. She always told us that one day she would visit us in the States. Then, 3 years later, when Dad's term was done, we moved back to Wisconsin and we lost touch with Charity. We often wondered how she'd fared because we had all imagined great things for her. About 1 year after we returned, I had moved to California, but my folks did hear from her again. Her re-entry into our lives is one of those stories we all love to tell because it really did start with, "On a dark and stormy night." There was a knock at the door. It became more repetitive and more fervent because it took so long to raise my parents from their bed. They opened the door. Standing in the dark under the porch overhang, dripping wet and holding her equally wet infant, was a woman. "Jumbo!" she shouted, for it was windy too. "I'm Charity!" Bewildered at the hour, but not really surprised at a Kenyan's tenacity for making the best of a situation, my parents reciprocated for all the love that was extended them in her country, and they took Charity in. There, she and her baby stayed for a long time, close to a year, while Charity tried to reunite with her husband. In Kenya, she had met and married a young American man we knew. She had his son, and when he had returned to Wisconsin without her, she had followed him. She managed to remain in the country and obtain her doctorate in pediatrics. She was working for Kaiser Hospital as a pediatrician when I last heard from her. This was our last conversation. She asked when I was planning to go home to Kenya. And I told her that I was not going to go back, that I preferred to keep my old stories old. I told her I wanted to find the same joie de vivre living in California. She was quiet for a moment as she pondered it. I could almost taste her disappointment. "What will you do, Sarah, to keep Kenya in your heart?" "I will tell her stories, Charity. I will. I promise." Charity, my old friend, my old partner in crime, if you're still out there, will you please contact me? Asante. Okay. Chapter 10 is find odd jobs. I think you will enjoy it. Remember, you don't have to be a child to enjoy their books, do you? Of course not. So, kwaheri ya koanana, which means goodbye until I see you again.